A lot of people believe that like therapy is about going in your past and digging things up. It's never about the past. Everything is about now. It's not even that hard to rewire and restructure, reframe the actual automated system that we have. Basically, there's an outside event that stresses you out. Credit card debt, whatever it is, that's freaking stressful. What people usually do is they go outward, blame, they forecast. If you have an internal locus of control, emotional sobriety, an event happens, you breathe and you stop, you do nothing. And you ask the question, what is it about this situation that's giving me an opportunity to feel this feeling that must have been stored in there? So it's an opportunity not only to not react, but to learn something about ourselves, which could help us to then afterward to not have those same stressful feelings again. Hey, guys, it is Alison. I am the host of your show, Alison Answers Mission Awake. I cannot wait to sit down with you today and go over how we are going to crush the mediocrity in your life that has been plaguing our society since the beginning of time. I cannot wait to have a real deal conversation that includes intelligence, fun, excitement, and real actionable steps to make a real difference in the life that you're living now and making it into something you can be damn proud of and excited to live. Sit down, put on your damn seatbelt, and get ready for the ride of your life.
Welcome back to the 365 Driven podcast. Today we've got a good friend of mine that's coming into the show, and she has been a licensed psychotherapist for over 30 years. She's also a business owner, and she owns a counseling services in New York called Lager Counseling, where she handles people with mental issues or substance abuse issues, all the whole suite of them. And she's a great expert, but she's also really big on personal development and trying to be the best version of yourself and fitness. And, she's very ambitious with her business, and full disclosure, she's a former client of mine as well. So I wanted to bring her expertise to the show. And Alison, Lager, welcome to the show.
I have to say, thank you so much, Tony. I'm so honored to be here. And a lot of it is because Tony has been such an influence. You have been such an influence in my life, in my family's life, even through very hard times, like going on the 365 Driven advance. We don't retreat, we advance, events. They have been the most magnificent experiences. My daughter her best experiences have been in her life have been on these trips. And your influence, you're like a dark horse. It's true. Like your influence is so strong and grounded and subtle. You don't even know what's happening when you're with Tony Whatley, but somehow life changes. And I just want to thank you so much for that.
I appreciate those kind words. I really do. And
I mean it.
I understand the importance and the gravity of the things that I do, especially nowadays with clients and holding these events with my wife. And I love that all you guys come to these events. And the thing I think that feedback I've gotten from you and other people is I don't make it about myself.
No.
The content I make, this podcast for all you listeners, it's not about me. It's like I'm living with a different purpose really in the last 10 years. And so I think everybody's just seeing that.
Yes, it's really evident. And even when you asked me to come on, I know that it's genuine. Like I thought it was I thought I was hacked. I thought
She
he
thought I
was
was hacked, guys.
like, are you really asking me to come on?
I reached out to Lisa and said, "Hey guys, is Tony hacked? Because somebody's contacting me to have me on the show."
So, I loved what you wanted to do. Like you want to help entrepreneurs and also help with mental health and combining those two. And I think there is really seriously a mental health crisis right now. It's been mounting for a long time, and especially right now in our culture with
election year.
Yes,
Hello.
it's very, very intense, right? And you had asked me to talk about stress, burnout, like any mental health things, and I'm just so happy to do that.
Yeah. But, it's still an entrepreneurship show. So I gave them a heads up on what your business is. But let's talk about your profession. Where did you find that you wanted to go into psychotherapy and help people?
Well, I first started out in fashion buying and merchandising because I love fashion and all of that. And I realized very quickly that it is designed, the whole field is designed to make people feel uncomfortable in what they're wearing so they'll buy something else. So I was like, I don't think I can get behind that. And since I was a little kid, I had a lot of emotional difficulties that I didn't know were emotional difficulties. It was because the way I was raised and a lot of different trauma and different thing when I was young. And I had a lot of friends who happened to have the same thing. And everybody always came to me for help. And I think I was just kind of made for that. Like it's very natural for me. I am delighted in people. And I just believe big for whatever reason. Like I just kept growing and expanding. I don't know if you want me to say anything about that,
Yeah,
but
you got multiple locations now and
mhm.
dozens of employees, and it's been a very thriving practice for a long time now.
Yeah. And like in this field, a majority of people who are therapists are afraid.
Mm.
So they don't really make big moves. Like somebody just gave me this compliment. They said, "You're like the weirdest therapist. You're like a therapist," but it was Josh Kosnick. He said, "You're like a therapist, but a saleswoman." I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of true, you know,
Yeah,
but I sell happiness
that's
and
that is the result. That is the result
it
we're looking
is.
for, and we always think about you're not selling counseling services because people
No.
really buy the result. Just like with coaching for business,
Mhm.
people want more time off and maybe more income, or maybe they want to exit their business. They're looking for a result, and it always goes back to fulfillment and happiness. That's kind of what we both sell.
Yeah, it's everything. You're right. And you know what I was thinking about, Tony, in regard to like coaching and therapy? Because like all of us will do, we embrace coaching as entrepreneurs. And what I have seen, and I think even in myself, is that we don't want to go backwards. So a lot of people believe that like therapy is about going in your past and digging things up and it's about like not forecasting into the future and all the things that we do as entrepreneurs. But I feel like coaches are amazing. Like I love it so much that it's like you get actionable steps and, left foot, right foot. How do I reverse engineer this and get somewhere? Right. But
Right.
then with therapy, this is where I kind of like, this is where I wish I could shake everybody's shoulders that they would really hear this is that therapy, well, it depends on who you're working with, but my thought of therapy is it's never about the past. I don't care if you're talking about your childhood. Everything is about now. So like everything is in our operating system. It's stored in our body. So if we are not, I think it's actually foolish. Like we work on, entrepreneurs are like into fitness and doing all these different things of personal development. If we do not take hold of what is stored in our body and be intentional, it's not even that hard to rewire and restructure, reframe the actual automated system that we have, that we're literally screwed. Like we're just going to keep repeating things and we don't know how it happened. One of my favorite quotes is by Alvin Toffler. It says, the illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read or write. It's those who cannot learn, unlearn, and learn again.
Mm.
Yeah. And like, I feel like what happens like in our space, the entrepreneurial space is like, we're forgetting a very, very important part of us. Like our business is us. It's an organism. And so when we work on the micro, which is us, it extends into the macro, which is everything. So it's like from even, I'm going to say this word. I mean, I think you're going to know what it is. A lot of people will, but epigenetics, like this all starts before birth. That what's stored in our body is the preparation for the environment we're going to go into. So if somebody's going into like an environment of trauma, like let's say domestic violence, like an entrepreneur is going to be born into that, even if they're not born into it. But during pregnancy, they will be wired in such a way to be prepared to survive that. They won't even know that. There's no memory of that, right? But it's there. And then 0 to 7 years old, we're in a theta brainwave, which is a hypnotic state. So we're actually being programmed, literally programmed to operate a certain way. And what people don't realize is that operating system could possibly run your entire business.
Yeah. I
forever.
mean, yeah, 0 to 7 is critical. I mean, I've
Hmm.
heard the different ages from 0 to 12, and there's
Hmm.
different numbers, but I think that's
Yeah.
different levels of the programming, so to speak.
Yes, it is. It really is.
So, do you think that a lot of the trauma and the mental health issues that we're seeing nowadays stems from our childhood, or is it things that come maybe in all ages of life?
I think it happens in all ages of life.
Mm.
And I think that it depends, but I think there's a progressive building. So, like, maybe if there's a structure that's built during those younger years that doesn't support things that are happening, let's say during the pandemic, let's say the structure that's built there is very solid, and then this happens and you already have the resilience, you're going to see it differently. And then you're going to store that data differently. Everything that's happening, like you were asking me about stress, right?
Yeah.
So, like stress and burnout, stress is fear, stress is urgency, stress is I'm here, but I should be here. Where I am isn't good enough. I have to be somewhere else. It's like this, but really, if like a solution to that is that stress is data. That's what I tell my kids. It's just data. So when you get the data, like, okay, this feels like this. This is, what am I going to, so how am I going to learn into that? And we just practice. When you're stressed, it's fear.
Okay.
So one of the primary things to know in all things is to be awake and aware, like in the now, in the present moment, without judging the situation. And that is something that combats partly fear, because if you're in the moment and you do what's in front of you, then that is usually what's here right in this moment. I tell people, look around, look up, look in the clouds. At this moment, is any of those things happening? And all fear, stress is usually future based. It's that kind of thinking. If I don't do this, this is going to happen. If I don't do that, that's going to happen. Like it's that energy of urgency and fear. Does that make sense? Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically what I tell people to do is practice. This is kind of funny. It's not being in a reactionary state. So in my field, every therapist in the world, I'm not kidding, is trained to believe that they're going to burn out. We're taught it.
Hmm.
Entrepreneurs are also taught that. That's
sure.
So when you were asking me about, could it be things that we're taught later in life that were programmed? Yes. So as an entrepreneur, I mean, we're taught, it's a grind, you're going to be stressed. It's going to be hard. You're going to struggle.
I used to believe that stuff. I used to
Yes,
believe that stuff.
me
And
too.
I know when I first met you, you believed that stuff.
Yes. Yes.
We thought entrepreneurship is supposed to be hard, and I get it is hard for some people. And if we take advice from people that are telling us it's always hard, we kind of expect that I'm not good enough unless I'm feeling the pain, and it's a hustle and a grind, and I'm working 3 jobs, and like I did all that. I remember, and when we grow up without money and without resources, we sometimes have to do what it takes. And there was a time I was working 3 jobs and had crazy credit card debt, and just things were not going well in my life. My low point was the year 2000 mentally.
Mhm.
And I was working 3 jobs at the time. I was a newborn father, and my son was born that year, and it was industry layoffs, and I racked up about 6 months on credit cards because nobody was hiring at the time.
Wow.
And so there was a lot of stress and anxiety and wondering what's going to happen. And the only answer I knew was to put my shoulder into it and work harder and dig my way out. And it served me for that time, but it wasn't healthy mentally.
Yeah. It's a couple of things because that is a very stressful and it's a frightening experience that you talked about just then. And I think part of it is also having the evidence that things always work out.
Yeah.
They always work out. My daughter, she's 19, you know her. She came to me, she goes, you know what? I was feeling stressed, but I realized I looked back. She goes, I know it's data. She goes, everything so far in my life has always worked out. I'm like, and it's true, it does. So if you take that information in as well, and I don't think we have to buy the lie. So like people who work here, they don't work here if they believe it, because I straighten them out. Like it is like against our law, our culture to be busy. So what I mean by or too busy. So what I mean is it's methodical. We work, no, don't tell me 50 things you're going to do. Tell me 3 things you're going to do that are going to move the needle, that are going to create a solution. So I think that a solution for which we know some basics, actionable things we all taught is like planning is everything. Being well planned, you're a master of your calendar. So then you're in charge of your day instead of fear being in charge of it, right?
So I think you're getting into anxiety now, which is another common thing we hear. So being organized cures anxiety unless you don't put things in a priority. So here's where most people get it wrong. Business owners, especially new startup business owners, they look at all the tasks that they have to do to start that business. Create the LLC, give it a name, come up with a logo, build the web page, go get a bank account. Like there's a lot of tasks. And they get this overwhelm because, oh my gosh, it's so much to do. And then they kind of give up. A lot of them, they just feel defeated. Now, if they were to take those tasks and put them on a calendar and go, hey, this takes 1 day, this takes 2 days, and have a plan, just like you mentioned, you can focus on the present time, the present task, and just chip away at it. And soon enough, a couple weeks in, everything's kind of checked the box and you have the thing without ever being stressed out. And I think that's just one example a lot of people in life don't do is they don't have any plan. They're just kind of meandering and drifting. And that's what causes a lot of stress and anxiety.
Completely. So I feel like when you're saying it's anxiety, stress, is that, right? So I like head, heart, feet, all in the same spot. So when clients come in, I want to say something that I think is a real antidote for it. And it's, I think it's the ill across all things. So it's stress, but it's also, I think all societal ill comes from this. And it's not being emotionally sober or having an internal locus of control. And what that means is that most people, the majority of human beings are in a reactionary state. And that's what stress is. So it's anxiety, it's a lot of things. But can I give a little analogy?
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. So a guy loses his keys. He's laying on his couch and he's like, oh my God, I can't find my keys. And then there's a blackout. So he starts looking around his house for his keys. And then he notices that outside there's a light outside, the street light's on. So he goes outside and he starts looking around on the street for his keys. He's looking all over and his neighbor comes over and he says, hey buddy, what are you looking for? And he says, I lost my keys. And he said, well, where'd you lose them? And he said, by my couch. And he said, so, well, how come you're looking out here? He said, because there's light out here. So, and that is what everybody's doing. We try to solve a psychological internal experience by tinkering around outside, changing people, saying, oh, this happened because of this because of him, her, that, this. So how do we handle a client who's stressed? Is we help them to go inward, because that is emotional sobriety. When you're emotionally sober, an outside event, and I literally physically practice this, and you can too. What you practice, you get good at. So basically, there's an outside event, no matter what it is. Doesn't matter. That stresses you out. Credit card debt, whatever it is, that's freaking stressful. That's the event. What people usually do is they go outward. So they might blame, they forecast, oh my God, this is going to happen. And they make vows. I'm never going to blah, 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 right? And then that's all stress. And then you can call it anxiety too. But that's an external locus of control. And the whole world's doing that. And that's why we have a 60% divorce rate. Everybody's blaming everybody else for the way they feel. So then if you have an internal locus of control, emotional sobriety is that an event happens. You breathe and you stop. You do nothing. Pause. And you go inward. Pause. Head, heart, feet, all in the same spot. And you ask the question, what is it about this situation that's giving me an opportunity to feel this feeling that must have been stored in there? Because we are drawn to experiences to scratch an itch of a buried feeling. So it's an opportunity not only to not react, but to learn something about ourselves, which could help us to then afterward to not have those same stressful feelings again. So then you say, okay, the reason that, and then you can have a conversation with your spouse, with your team, whoever it is, to say, oh, this is what is coming from me. So you know what's coming from you. I'm stressed out. Why am I judging? All judgment is like a threat. So I'm judging them because I feel less than. And then you know it. And then you don't go do that thing, whatever it is you're going to do in a reaction. So if you have to handle something outside of yourself, you can, but first you got to take care of the actual real issue, because everything is us. Nothing's not us.
It's very powerful. I would encourage the listener to go back and rewind that and kind of work themselves through that and paint the scenarios of incidences or things that have come up in the recent weeks that have kind of triggered them or made them upset, or maybe they read a post or something your mom said to you or just whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
this really ties into Stoicism,
yeah,
Greek philosophy. And so I'm a big fan of Stoicism. My listeners have heard me talk about it. And what I really enjoy about Stoicism, and here's the foundational thought of Stoicism, it's control what you can control and just disregard the rest because it's going to happen anyway. It's like anything that's beyond your control, which includes every other human except yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have zero control over anybody, even your children, if you think you're a parent that can control things. So you don't get to control the weather. You don't get to control random things or forces of nature or people or animals or anything. And most people stress over things they have zero control over.
Mm-hmm.
They are worried about what their boss is going to think about them. And that's something you can't control. You can control your actions and your words that may change their opinion of you. But that's really what Stoicism goes back to, is just looking inward and going, hey, this is what I believe. This is what I know. This is my experience. And what actions or words can I use in this moment to change the outcome? And if I can't change the outcome of that thing that's bothering me, then I'm just going to have to let it happen no matter how it's going to happen. It's just going to happen regardless.
Yeah. And if you believe, all things, I think, return to like our foundational beliefs. Like, so if something happens outside of you, let's say that's outside of your control and you don't like it, right? I mean, that happens. We have a mess. Yeah, it's like a messy world out there. So, but do you believe, I think a large part of stress also is something that I've worked on a lot, is learning how to trust ourselves. Because I say this joke, like, without me, I'd be nowhere. It's just like, you know what I mean? Like, it's really, it sounds very like corny, but being your own best friend, being the person in your corner is very, very powerful. And if you can trust yourself, that that if you're in an environment that's difficult, whatever it is, you can trust yourself to make good choices, not react. Like, you can do the things that can, make it best for you.
So
right?
now I'm going to get into this one, because this is taking a turn towards confidence, self-confidence.
Yes.
We both know the importance of that, and we both work extremely hard on ourselves to have that, but let's lay it out. You love to do the bullet points and give people examples. People are struggling with self-confidence. So how do they fix this?
Oh, I love that topic, because to me, if you work toward, first of all, the first thing I think in all things is a decision. So a decision is a power move. It's incredible. Definiteness of purpose. You decide, I am confident. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to be confident. Right. So like, whatever it is that somebody wants to do, I think discipline, and, we hear it over and over again, it becomes cliche, but like keeping the promises we make to ourselves establishes a good relationship with ourselves. And also it produces confidence. And, planning produces confidence, knowing that you're a master over your thoughts, over your calendar, over how you feel, how you think. Like, if you know that, I tell people, you're only responsible for the 3 feet around you. So every thought, feeling, action, behavior, anything that happens inside there is yours. To me, if you make a mistake, you're the one that has control over it. You can change whatever you want in here. Like, we have power to do that. So I think one of the biggest things that causes a lack of confidence is we don't know the power we have. We really don't know. And there's all these like little tricks, but like we have like an operating system, right? That's programmed. It's automated, right? So being aware of it has you have a sense of control over it, which produces confidence. So if you see something in yourself that you don't like, you actually have the power to change it, but you have to know that. And I'm telling you that you do. Fact. The other thing is, if you take a relationship, I'll give a little example. So if you said to Lisa, hey, Lisa, I just picked up a little baby monkey and I'm bringing it home. Before, you already know what Lisa would say, right? You know
hell
that.
No. You're not.
Exactly. You know right. So if you said to her, Lisa, listen, I'm just, whatever it is, we're going out to dinner with whoever, you know her answer.
Monkey. We're bringing the monkey.
And we're bringing the monkey. You know the answer. So that's just like we're programmed, like what I was saying, like we're programmed inside. A relationship is programmed and there's scripts. So if you want to change a relationship, you change what you do. And the person and unconsciously, they have no choice but to change what they do. So this also, when you have an understanding of that, so let's say you want something in your marriage, your family, your business, your teams to change. If you do a little alter in your behavior, you can watch, you can witness. This produces confidence. You can witness that the script that they expected didn't happen. Now they don't realize it, but they have to change something. And people get uncomfortable. They don't know what to do because they're expecting a script, but they don't know it. But when you see it, it can give you confidence in understanding. I have more understanding and power over my environment that I realize. And this is not about manipulation. This is about, if I change the world that I'm in, the way that people interact with me has to change. It's law.
No, I believe this. I've lived this my entire life. And so what you're saying to me is we focus on building our identity or our desired identity, because everybody's got an identity right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think, unfortunately, too many people hang labels on themselves that are deemed by society, and they live to that label. I mean, we hear about all the racial politics or calling yourself a Democrat or calling yourself a Republican or whatever. These are all labels that are created by society. And every time you hang a label on yourself, you become one little bit less of a free thinker, which kind of gives up your sovereignty and your independence. I like not carrying as many labels as possible, and then only holding on the ones that are truly, truly something worthwhile to you. And you had to question, why is it worthwhile to you? You mentioned earlier, people have a trouble unlearning. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people don't think about is they think they're always adding to their existing education, their existing learning. But you and I both have seen that the biggest changes are by removing belief systems and unlearning things that are screwing you up. If you're always telling yourself, oh, I can't meet the right man, and they're always attracting these dirt bags. Like, if you're telling yourself that constantly, you're now building an identity around someone that can only attract dirt bags, and that's what you believe, and that's what the energy you're going to put out is always going to be that.
Yes.
And I was the other way around, where it's like I didn't have money, so I said, okay, what do people with money do? What are the behaviors and actions and the ways they think? And I used to read magazines. I was a kid. I was reading magazines about cars, and I was reading magazines about Entrepreneur and Forbes, and I didn't understand anything in those money magazines, but I kept reading them. I was 12 years old with a subscription to like Forbes, and none of my friends cared about that, but I was trying to figure out, how do I make money? How do I get ahead? I don't want to, live broke the rest of my life. And eventually, just reading those things cover to cover, I started to put things together and understand the terminology and what they were thinking. And I had different mindsets around business and career. And so I decided, even early ages, like, I want to be successful. And it wasn't multimillionaire back then. It was just, I want to make $100,000. Like, I had lower goals. It wasn't giant dreams. And so I pursued those things. I built an identity around someone who's going to be educated. I built an identity in later life. Around 38 years old, I started thinking, like, I want to be fit again. I'm tired of being kind of out of shape and soft and fluffy. And I just got tired of that. I was like, I'm almost 40 years old. I want to get over that. And I'm almost 52 now, and I've been exercising consistently since I was 39. And
Mhm.
so we had to build identities about how we dress, how we speak. If you don't like the way you sound, if you don't like your voice, you can go get a voice coach like our friend Matt Bertho. Go hire a voice
At
coach,
Bertho.
go
Yeah.
work on your voice. You'll have more range. If you're worried about not getting on camera and you have stage fright, you can go hire people to get you through these things. And
Mhm.
so you have to understand, like, who is the perfect version of myself and what is it that's different about them versus me today? And what are the necessary steps that I need to go do to correct that? If you guys heard some of my earliest podcasts, which was 2005, 2006, way back, not my show. I was a guest host on an automotive podcast, one of the earliest podcasts in the space. There's still episodes out there. I think the host still puts it out there. But if you were to go listen to those episodes of me back then, 2005, 2006, I sound as Texan as it gets. I had like the country twang and the southern sounding voice. I sound just like my dad. And it
Oh.
cracks me up to go listen to that, but I realized, like, hey, that's not the way I want to communicate. So I need to go figure out how to enunciate better and
Mm.
pronounce things better and expand my vocabulary and push myself to become the version of me that I want to become. So even your accent and your voice and your mannerisms and the way you dress and the way you show up and your fitness, the way you eat, all these things are within your control and you can change every one of those.
I can't even agree with that more. I think that that is a superpower. I tell people who work here, I said, any job that you want here, just be the person. Just do the job and you'll have it. It's so simple. Hey, guys, how are you? Isn't that amazing? This story that we're hearing on this show is great. I want to just give a shameless plug of my book. I would really want people to have a good look at my book and to understand what it really is. I used to be ashamed to plug my book. And then I realized, how is that right to keep the information, the 30 years of experience that I have, the 8 years of education, the trauma that I grew out of and learned how to manage and how to manage emotion, all the training I've had in neuroscience and quantum physics. How can I keep that from the public? So it's not, I used to think it was like something I should, be humble about, but being humble is silly when you're keeping things away from people that they need. So what I want to tell you about my book, and I hope that you do get it because I think it will really help you. I've gotten a lot of tremendous feedback about my book and that it's really, really of great value to a lot of people. And what it is, it's an interactive read, and there's inside of it, there's journal entries. So as I'm teaching and going through the book and teaching you how to create the life you want by understanding how you're wired, how your thoughts, feelings, how your words, how thoughts are things, and the neuroscience behind it, and how we are programmed from the time we're 0 to 7 years old to live a life of mediocrity or a life of poor design because of meaning that we attached to events when we were children that just became our programming. What I want to tell you is that there is a way out, and it's a simple way. It's very simple. I believe in the simplicity and the grace in healing, and that it doesn't have to be a big work. So I would love it if you'd get my book. It's a best-selling book on Amazon, and it's my first. And I encourage you to get it. It's called The Wake Up Call, an interactive read for building the life you want. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thanks so much for being on the show, and let's get back to it. There's this thing, I was talking about data, but you know how, like, let's say things are coming in your life, like the way you're describing, like things are coming in your life that you don't like, whatever it is. Certain people are coming in your life that you don't like, or certain qualities that you don't like. What I have people do is I have them look at just a snapshot of right now, financially, emotionally, spiritually, socially, relationally, vocationally, and fun. Like, what is the actual snapshot of those things? What does it look like right now? And basically all that is, it's a mirror. It's just data that's telling you about what you believe your value is. So you might see in this one area, hey, like I am consistently, raising my revenue. So I must believe that I'm worthy of that. Or I get to a certain point and it doesn't go any further. And now I'm looking at every other thing outside of me to fix that thing because I have whatever, 1,000 people working for me. But how about you go inward and you say, that's data. I'm awake to it, aware in right now, this present moment. But the key is without judgment. Like, you don't beat yourself up. So I've even done it like when I've felt like I was attracting certain people to me. I was like, I don't want those people around me. So then I would say, okay, there must be some part of me but that believes that particular quality in that person is what either matches me or it's the way I act or something. So I look at myself and then I make a little adjustment. Yeah. So we have power to do these things. And then all of a sudden, that quality in people, now I'm having something else. And I can give an example to entrepreneurs about like a business owner. So like I was noticing that I was getting very upset over and over and over again, repeatedly at different people who worked for me, all different people. The majority I loved, but then and it wasn't all at the same time, just different times in over the years. And then I said, let me look at the common denominator in all of these because I know it's me. So what also, is it my hiring process? Like, what is it? And this is related to what we're saying. So then I go, okay, what is it? They're incompetent. They don't do what I ask them to do. I can't trust them. Now I start asking, and I'm asking me. So what is the earliest time in your life that you have felt those feelings? I'm like, bingo. I felt it my whole childhood that I was the parentified child. So that's part of systems in a business as well. I would touch on that. It's very important that we will have stuff. I didn't even realize this is going on for years. I'm firing people basically. And it was true. They were what they were, but it was that I was reigniting over and over again, recreating an emotional experience so I could feel the feeling and be angry about it and try to fix it, fire them. Like you're firing your mother who can't open the ketchup and you have to open it because you can't figure it out when you're 4. Like, whatever it is that. So to me, and I bet you a lot of entrepreneurs are parentified children.
What does that mean? Parentified?
A parentified child is someone who really did not have parents they could really count on. So they were either neglected or they, raised themselves in a lot of ways. And a parentified child has this core base inside of their body of shame. So they will match up with others who match their level of shame. That's another thing they do. But a big thing that they do is, as children, if you're a parentified child, you think you're the only one who can see what's going on. You're the only one that knows what's happening. So I'll look over at my team. I'm like, does anybody not see this? Do you not see the holes in this system? How could they not see the holes in this system? And it feels almost like a crisis. That's like stress. And then you look inward and you say, wait a minute, what are you getting all upset about? This is not a crisis. What's happening? Okay, this reminds me, this is a feeling that is stored in my body, buried alive, that somehow is needing me to express. So now what I can do is there's this thing that you do, and it's reparenting, or you can reframe or rewire. Over the years, these terms change, but you say, okay, as being my best friend now, I show up for me. The adult me says, you know what, Allie? It's okay. What's the solution? That's where you live in the solution. That's the stoicism. Like, this is an outside event. This is not a crisis. We can fix the email storing system, right? And there's all these different roles in businesses, also in our teams, that I think entrepreneurs will really help them to know that all bosses, all employers typically are the parents. And you'll see employees who will actually be having reactions to you and really projecting on you things that they did their parents. And there's really not a lot you can do about it except to have a conversation.
That's interesting. Yeah. So you guys listening, if you have trouble with, especially employees that are not doing what you ask, or they may be projecting their feelings about their parents on you.
Yep. It's a thing.
That's tough. That's a real thing. That is a real thing. I mean, I would even say I'm guilty of that because I don't like being told what to do. I'm okay being asked to do something. But man, my dad, Marine, PTSD, Vietnam vet, he was just very direct and always bossing me around as a kid. And I was very, I grew a real tolerance to being bossed around, and I don't like that. And I have like this negative reaction to being bossed around.
Now,
Probably
I'll
that's
tell
why
you.
I'm an entrepreneur.
Yes. Yes. But you know what's amazing? Think about it. Anyone who's listening, honestly, if you just stop for a moment and just think, if you have a repeated uncomfortable, I hate the word uncomfortable. That's the entrepreneur in
Challenging.
me.
It's challenging.
Challenging, difficult, something that revs you up feeling inside. And you see it and it repeats. It is your responsibility. It is our obligation to take care of our operating system, just like it's our responsibility to take care of the food that goes in our body and how we interact with others. So basically, the first stop is always us. Entrepreneurs don't want to do that because they want to do the forward, actionable, tough steps that move them ahead fast. Well, good luck. I'm sorry, I sound snotty, but
Now,
it's also you want to build, it's just like building a system in your business. You have to go back. If the systems are not properly operating inside of your major operating system, which is your body, if they're not operating properly, we go back, we fix them, we
yeah.
update them, we make them fit so that life is better. And that is really our job. If you do that, your business will reflect it. Every system that we fix in ourselves fixes in our business. And you can see, if you look around you, you're getting data that's telling you how you're doing. If you can see it in your team's eyes, you can see it. I know I'm doing well when everybody in the team's so cohesive. They're laughing, like things are getting done. Like, I know. And this is not being egocentric. You're the owner of the business, right? You're the leader.
Yeah. Yeah. Leaving it's a culture thing. And, you know, this sounds great. I mean, but it's challenging. It's very challenging.
Yeah.
It's not, none of this is easy, guys. And, Allison and I both fully realize that you're listening to this and you're probably assessing yourself in this moment, and you're using some examples of things that you react to. And you understand that it's not going to be easy to get through these things, but it is possible. And I'll tell you, you mentioned about when people are coming into your lives or people that are already existing in your lives. You'll find if you assess a lot of the people that are around you, the people that you work with, friends, air quotes, right? Are they really good friends, or are they just there for some kind of convenience? Or are they, taking advantage of the situation? There's a lot of agendas that you may be aware of or maybe not be aware of, but I think that it's important that the hardest thing that Lisa and I ever did was the New Year's Day on 2019. We were actually vacationing in Colorado for New Year's, and 18 was a good year. I wrote my book and I launched the podcast that year, and things were going pretty well. But then you kind of get the frenemies, the people that you've known for a long time that just really didn't support what you were doing, or they would question you, or they'd be passive aggressive, or make little snide comments like "must be nice" and stuff like that. And we kind of got sick of it after a year because we were both building different companies. Her at a real estate company, and my coaching business, and so we started to realize like some people, even people we've known for 20 plus years, just weren't really available or weren't coming around anymore. There's something changed. Maybe it's because in the career world, I couldn't hire them anymore, get them a good job, in my oil and gas career or just whatever, right? And so we woke up on New Year's Day, 2019, and we said, okay, we're going to make a commitment as a husband and wife. We're going to write down names and we're going to assess them, and then we're going to remove them from our lives and our social media, and like not hang out with these people anymore. And Lisa probably had a dozen names. I think I had like 8 to 10 names, and we both looked at them and said, okay. And some of them were people we'd been on vacation with and watched their kids grow up and did a lot of things. And just the easiest way to assess people like this, because it sounds challenging to do it. It is exceptionally it felt like a loss. It might as well like they passed away, like when you start to remove people. So it's hard to do. But it's an energy thing. And when you see these people, what's your reaction? Like, what's your internal reaction to when someone's calling you and you see their name on the screen?
Yeah.
Do you say, "Look, I can't wait to have this conversation," or do you go, "Oh, damn, what now? What do they need now?" Right?
Mm.
When you see them, is it all they're always asking you for something, or is it is it a one way conversation? And you need to be really I guess, aware of these kind of energies around people and start to gain some confidence by removing those people from your life. And they could be great people. They're not great for you.
Yeah.
And the best way to do it is create boundaries. And if they are inviting you, just decline. You can be polite about it. You don't have to be rude to any of these people. But that was one of the hardest things that she and I did, and it actually became one of the best decisions we ever made. But we didn't realize that till probably 6, 7 months later.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. And also, you know what I think is interesting about it also? So because people have their intention for wanting to be around us, that's one thing. And then when I just know this just from raising my kids and stuff, just being with them and their relationships. It's like we will, and also clients, we will repeatedly be in these relationships and they're like, oh, how did I land here again? Well, because there's some part of you that needs to have that. Like I've even said to like one of my kids, like, it seems like there's a part of you that wants to keep rehearsing that guilt and feeling that you're somehow a bad person. Like you want to keep writing that story. So you like kind of allow people in
I
that
get
do
it.
that for you,
Yeah, it's kind
you
of like the
know?
victim mindset some people
Yeah.
always have. They're always the
Yeah.
victim. It's always woe is
Hmm.
me. You see them crying on Facebook and everything's terrible. It's like
Yeah.
they've built that identity as I'm a victim and everything happens to me.
Can I like say something that every entrepreneur is going to get mad at me for?
Oh yeah, I love this. This might be
This is your jam right
yeah,
now.
yeah. Let's
All
do
right,
it.
now I'm
Spice this
scared.
thing
I'm going to
up.
get some hate. I'm going to get haters for this.
All right.
I think that a lot of entrepreneurs who are talking about grind, struggle, this is so hard, blah, 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 really, should I say it? It's like being a victim. Like it's so hard to be, it's lonely at the top. I love what you say. It's not lonely at the top if you bring people with you.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like, right? And the truth is that, like I tell the therapist, when you sit across from a client that is so overwhelming, like people come in with the most unbelievable trauma and they're like, oh my God, I need a bigger boat. I can't do this shit. Like this is hard. And I'm like, no, actually, the moment that everything that happened in their life already happened, it's done. Now it's everything that's going to happen and you can help them. Like these things are not actually, they're simple to
It
do.
is
And I
simple.
think, yeah, what makes it challenging and hard is that it requires repetition and to not get discouraged. So like just a little sample of something I do, and I regularly do it because what we practice, we get good at. So if we practice being upset, we're going to be good at being upset. If we practice being stressed, we'll be good at being stressed. So I'll practice non-reaction. So for example, I literally do this. If I hear a loud noise, I do not move. I go, I wait, and then I turn around if necessary. And I literally intentionally practice. My son pulled out of my driveway and boom, a big crash. He crashed, right? I heard it. And I went, first of all, being hysterical is not going to solve that problem. Running out is not going to solve that problem. Being composed, being grounded, non-reaction is a better person. Isn't that who you want around you to
Absolutely.
solve a problem? So you can
Absolutely.
just practice it with little things.
One of the things I always tell
Mhm.
my clients that have these temper or anger issues,
Mm.
best way to practice it is go drive in public.
Yes.
If you can control your emotions during times where you would normally road rage, that's a show of strength. And men, this is another thing you need to unlearn, okay? We're taught from being a child, a boy, that when you fall down and you scab yourself up, you're supposed to get up and brush yourself up and like you're all right, you're all right, you're tough. Like, let's go, you're a man. And so as we're little toddlers, we're taught this reaction of just like show strength and like, be fearless, right? And that's not a bad thing. But the problem is that especially like high school kids and we used to get in a lot of fights and do these stupid things, even in the college years. Men have this reaction where we gotta like pump ourselves up and we try to be big and scary and loud and intimidating physically and vocally, right? And so you think that's what it takes to be a man when you're growing up. And then when you realize when you do something like martial arts and they teach you
Mm.
that mental control, emotional control is like the number one thing that you learn. And that professionals don't go into a ring and they're sparring, they're not screaming and trying to
Mhm.
peacock and do all these weird things. They're the ones that are the most calm and they're assessing the situation and they're really level and they're thinking about the plan that they're going to have to attack or defend themselves. And so if you're the person that road rages, like my dad, who would just scream all the obscenities at the windshield and honk and do all these things, that's actually a weaker state of mind. It's a weaker position to be in because you're not doing what we mentioned earlier in this episode. You're not pausing when you have the stimulus. You're supposed to pause. Someone with emotional control will pause and assess that. And then we have a reaction, not a response.
Mhm.
We need to have a response. We need to respond, not react.
Mhm.
And so if you're out there driving and people cut you off or whatever, things that would normally trigger you, take that as an opportunity to learn from and go, hey, is screaming at my own windshield really going to reach their ears? Is honking really going to change what's already been done? Capture it in that moment and learn to process your emotions. And that's something that can happen every time you drive.
We work a lot with people who rage, usually in like couples and stuff like that, but all different kinds. And a big thing is that rage is a power imbalance. So it's different situations. So it's somebody who stuffs, like if men aren't allowed to have emotions, they stuff, 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 stuff. And they could be the nicest men in the whole world. And then they blow. And usually it has to do with something where it feels like a power imbalance for them. So they need to, puff up their power again because they feel small. And another thing is I could challenge any man. I would go toe to toe with any man. And they don't like when I say this, but rage is fear.
Yeah,
They
for
don't
sure.
like me calling it that. But when they recognize it, it's such a relief. Even a guy who is so strong in beating the crap out of another guy with a baseball bat, whatever, just destroying another person. What is that is causing that? It's fear.
It's fear.
Yeah.
It's fear.
And yeah. And it's like mastering. I mean, that is being so really, you're giving somebody, when you rage at someone, that other person owns you. You just gave your power away to that person.
That's exactly right. Exactly
Mm-hmm.
right. I mean, think about how silly it would be if we watch spy movies, if the spy would run around screaming and like peacocking before he's doing something. Like spies like kind of just sneak around, they fix their bow tie, they're kind
Yes.
of all slick, and then they go knock off a few targets and then they go have their martini. And it's like you never see them get emotionally outraged. Like they're
Yeah.
doing things that are really deadly and they're just chill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
So
that's a superpower. That's funny. I think that's so
right.
funny. And really, if you think about it, anybody who, people have emotional hangovers after that, like they feel horrible. And, also, just a side note, I can't help saying it, but it's like they become addicted, like people who rage become addicted to it because it's like an
Yes.
adrenaline rush. And then they can't stop because it actually feels almost good in the moment. Like they feel more powerful and bigger. Usually it's because they felt really small when they were little or
Well,
had an abusive
there's two
dad.
things that make people feel invincible.
Hmm.
Steering wheels and keyboards.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
want to
Right?
wrap this on the social
Hmm.
media topic. We'll go over time a little bit because this is a good conversation. And everybody's on social media. You're very active. I'm very active. People are comparing their follower counts, their view counts. They're seeing people live the picturesque lives. They're all the election year that was going on. A lot of turmoil. We're seeing a lot of global issues, a lot of negativity, and the news is definitely going to feed you the negative stuff. So, what advice do you give to people who may be feeling some pressure from spending time on social media?
Yeah. I have a lot of things to say about that, but I do think that being on social media, if it's not used properly, it's a breeding ground for anxiety, for comparing, for feeling less than. And, I liken social media to almost like it's like the number of likes. It's kind of like people pleasing. It's like in middle school or high school. It's like, I just want to be popular. I just want people to see me and like me. And I think we all can fall into that. Like, oh, how come a lot of people don't like me? And it really is about how you feel about yourself. think about the chat. And I really, really think that any information that we are getting on social media, I would caution myself to trust any of that. I think we're in an unprecedented time, which does cause anxiety because we don't know where to find the truth. And I think that is very, I know that when I was growing up, I felt like I could find the truth about the reporting information. And now we really don't know that truth. And kids are turning to TikTok for truth. Yeah. I everything on my feed, and I don't really scroll. So I go on social media to put my stuff on, and then I don't really scroll. Maybe like a couple of things down, and that's it. And usually what I see is something positive. If I see anything negative, I hide them or I get rid of them because I think we have to be our own guardian. Guard your heart.
We are the curator of our feed.
Yes. And of our life.
Well, Alison, if people want to listen to your podcast or maybe even work with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Instagram, I'm Alison Answers with 1 L. And on Facebook, I'm also Alison Answers or Alison Logger. And then there's Logger Counseling Services. You can always find me, loggercounseling.com. That's it. Logger like the beer.
Any final words you'd like to give to that listener that's maybe going through some things right now and needs to see the light at the end of that tunnel?
Yes. I can honestly say that no matter what you are going through right now, there is always a solution. And you may not have found it yet, but it is always there. And if you are willing to just breathe and just stay in the moment and make a decision that you're willing to begin to change your inner workings of your mind, your feelings, and your actions will change and your whole life will change. And I can pretty much guarantee that to you. And it's just repeated. I tell that people ask me, how do you do that? Left foot, right foot. That's it. If you're going through a hard time, left foot, right foot, this will end. If you're having a hard time, and don't quit before the miracle happens.
Beautiful way to end this one. Very powerful. Alison, thank you for spending time with us. And it's going to be a good episode. If you got anything from this, screenshot it, share it, tell your friends, tag your friends in these episodes. This is how this show grows. And, we're not charging you to learn these things from people. We don't have any sponsors, and we'd both love to hear from you. If you reach out to Alison, she will respond to you. She's that kind of person. And so am I. And thank you for spending time with us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
And thank you, Tony. I'm truly honored, and I'm glad I wasn't hacked and you actually wanted me here.
Next time, I'll be hacked next time.
Exactly. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the show. I just want to say to you that we are all together a part of the Mission Awake, a mission that's going to stop the mediocrity that's plaguing all of us. So if you got something here today, I ask that you would be a part of this mission and you'd share it with whoever you can. Take a screenshot of the show and share it on your Instagram. If you are looking for me, you can find me on social media platform Instagram, Alison Answers or Logger Counseling Services. And give us a review and subscribe if you could to YouTube, Alison Answers. That's where you're going to get a lot of content. I drop stuff every day, goofy stuff, all different kinds of stuff. 5-minute videos that just get you moving in your day. Have a great week. See you next time.